G'day Binanceans and welcome to this week's Binance Beach. I'm joined by Greg Oakford, GM at Upside, writer at Cointelegraph, and you've got a pretty long resume, Greg. Welcome to Binance Beach.
Thanks for having me. Yes, the leader of the good morning at Upside. So looking forward to this chat today, Liam.
Well, it's great to have you on. It's been a pretty crazy week in crypto, and I think it could even be one of the craziest weeks we've ever had, which says a lot for this industry because this place does not stop humming. Let's kick it off with actually, before we do, I'd love you to answer that question. Is this the craziest week in crypto history? Has more happened in this past 7 days than has happened in any other period in this industry's short history? Has this blown your mind more than anything in the past?
I mean, from an objective onlooker, I think the answer is yes. From when I had bags going up and mooning in 2021 and certain things happening in the Bored Ape community, etc., that probably from a personal perspective felt like, what the hell is going on in the world? And that was really my only first full crypto cycle. But I think taking a step back and just seeing the larger ecosystem at play, I don't think there has been a crazier week in crypto. It all sort of kicked off. I'm sure we'll get into Trump coin in a second, Liam. But I can give you a full detailed recollection of how that went down. It started at 1:37 p.m. Eastern time here in Australia while I was grabbing a coffee. And that weekend was nuts. That was sort of then capped off, or not capped off, but a spanner thrown in the works with Melania coin sort of early Monday morning our time. And then when you go and fast forward the last couple of days, it's seen a very, very volatile market. But just even 2 hours ago before we went to air with the executive order that Trump signed with a number of things in there, which I'm sure we'll break down in a second. But I don't think there has been a crazier week. And it is funny how short memories we do have collectively. Like, I'm in a bunch of group chats, I'm sure some that we share, and once something becomes true, it's all speculation. And, imagine a world where the US administration does XYZ and then they actually do it. And then everyone sort of gets bored and goes, well, what's the next thing, right? So if you take a step back, just the hostility there's been on crypto in general, in many parts of the world, and particularly the US, that seems to be lifting collectively right now. I think it's easily the most craziest week from a lot of different perspectives, including that Trump meme coin that just had an unprecedented run up.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the single best opportunity for generational wealth we've had this cycle so far. But yeah, look, let's kick into it. I tend to agree with you, and I think the volatility on this weekly Bitcoin chart just shows what a roller coaster this week was. We dipped as low as 90K and even as high as 109. Actually, sorry, no, we didn't get down to 90. We got down to sat around 100 this week, and then made new all-time highs up around 109,800 US, I think. So we were just a smidgen short of that 110 mark. But then, oh man, volatility. For a week where we hit all-time high, it's crazy to think that fear and greed is sitting at 61. You would expect that to be so much higher. And as we look down our top coins, I mean, Solana made an all-time high off the back of the Trump meme coin launch earlier in the week, but a bunch of other stuff is actually down on the week, which seems ridiculous. And when you look at some of these charts, even just these little trend lines on the right-hand side, it really was a crazy week for jumping around. Oh, I mean, let's kick into the Trump meme coin. It's pretty hard to go past this as the number one topic of the week, despite everything that's happened. Like you said, launched on the Saturday. I was offline at the Bucks party, completely missed it until Monday morning. That was a bit of a rookie error. Binter in Orlando was online, faded at 30 cents. He's been beating himself up all week too. But yeah, I mean, what do you make of this? And is the Trump meme coin good for crypto, or is this just a grift?
Well, I think like many people, the initial time I saw the tweet, I think I saw the tweet within the first 5 minutes of it being posted. I can vividly remember where I was standing at a local coffee shop, just, mindlessly scrolling on X and see this Trump tweet pop up. The initial reaction was, that's got to be a hack. The crypto ball was happening in the US. It was 9:30 p.m. Eastern time in the US, and it seemed like such a strange time in my head to go, why is he launching a meme coin, like literally while he's probably on stage addressing all the bigwigs at this crypto ball? So it didn't make sense for me. And I went home. I think I made lunch. I had a podcast in, and I just sort of forgot about it for another hour. I went back to X. I saw a couple of group chats sort of still talking about it. And all of a sudden it went in my mind from, holy shit, this is a hack, to potentially this is real. I think at the time I looked at it, it was at maybe $6, $5 or $6. And I thought I missed it, Liam. And I was very, very wrong, as many times I am. And for the next 40 hours, I think I refreshed CoinGecko at least 500 times and just absolutely coped that I had missed it, and just watched it run from 6 to 10 to 15 to 27 to 31 to 44, thinking, well, 44 has to be the top. Nope. To 50, 55. And I think all the way up to the last time I looked at the price, might have been Sunday night Eastern time here in Australia. And it was about 60, no, it was 75 or 76. Woke up in the morning. I think it was still around that price. And then Melania coin hit, and then we saw a massive pullback, obviously. But in terms of the run up, I mean, I don't know what the numbers of multiples would be off the top of my head, but it felt like the Bored Ape Yacht Club's 12-month run up condensed into a 48 or 40-hour window. That's what it sort of felt like. Like I've just never seen anything like it. And you mentioned Solana's all-time high before, and it wasn't even Solana. It was Jupiter and Radium, and anything really in the Solana ecosystem from that perspective was just absolutely pumping, while everything else was cratering, probably except for Bitcoin. I think maybe Bitcoin came off 0.5% or 1% over that sort of 40 hours or so. But it was just crazy how everything was just sucked out of all other coins. And I've listened to a lot of podcasts and a lot of commentary over the last sort of week. And you hear lots of stories of people just really having the same reaction as I did, like, this is a hack. And then when they've learnt that it wasn't, or at least made an educated guess that it wasn't, that it looked legitimate, they were just swapping out all of their other holdings, all of their other meme coin holdings, altcoins, some even, switching Bitcoin to just get as large a piece of the pie as they could with the Trump coin. But it's funny how anchors can often distort our decision-making, Liam. And I would say I've got a lot of the major meme coins sort of like their anchor points and where they're sitting at around, their total market cap. And when the Trump coin started, really mooning and getting past sort of like, I know there's the 80% that's withheld at the moment. So the market cap and FDV is a little bit different. But when Trump sort of went past 10 billion, I sort of started to think I'm going to top blast this. So I just sort of pumped the brakes on wanting to get exposure to it. But that was a genuine mistake, because that Trump freight train meme coin could not be stopped. Is it good or bad for the industry? I don't know. I think maybe for people in the industry that we're hoping brings attention and more eyeballs. And I think you can make a very strong case. It was arguably the biggest onboarding event to crypto. You saw apps like Moonshot and Google search terms like how do I buy Trump, etc. Like they just skyrocketed. So from an onboarding perspective and getting maybe crypto back into, let's call it the normie zeitgeist, I think that was a tick. Should a president be shilling a meme coin 2 days before he goes into office? I don't know. I'll let others debate that. I don't love to get into the political stuff. There's enough political commentary out there. But I would say overall, very good for our bags, at least in the short term.
Well, if you held stuff in the ecosystem in the short term, it definitely was in the Solana ecosystem. But yeah, I mean, the only thing that halted the Trump march was, of course, the launch of the Melania coin. Normally, you have to get divorced to lose 50% of your net worth, but Melania launched a meme coin and did the same thing. So, yeah, it's definitely one to watch. I'm sure that we haven't seen the end of this story. By no means do I think this coin's just going to fade off into oblivion. I also think this opens the door for an enormous amount of more people be they political, be they celebrities going on to launch meme coins. I think meme coins are probably going to be the NFT collections of this cycle. They're so much shorter or faster and easier and cheaper to take to market. You don't even need to worry about art or utility or a roadmap. You literally just launch the thing on pump.fun and send it to your Twitter and let it run. So I don't think we've seen the end of the Trump narrative. I don't think we've seen the end of the meme coin, celebrity meme coin, political figure meme coin narrative either. So this is definitely going to be one to watch. Let's move to hopefully what is more legitimate areas of crypto progress by Trump. There was a bunch of stuff that's come out this morning, so I'm going to run through this really quickly, and then I'd love to get your reaction to it. Trump said in this particular video that the US is going to be the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. This is the message that he had on the campaign trail, but it's nice to see it reflected in the ongoing messaging, the ongoing content that he's putting out. Then there was this White House executive order strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology. Saylor called this, what was that quote? The crypto renaissance. And there was a bunch of stuff in here. I haven't even had the chance to go through and read this in detail yet, but a bunch of things on stable coins, on CBDCs, on digital asset reserves, or what are they called? Well, here's the CBDC one. Then there's the digital asset stockpile. Is that the same or different to a strategic Bitcoin reserve? Not sure. I guess we'll find out. The SEC has repealed SAB 121, which now allows the banks to custody crypto. This is probably the most bullish and the biggest announcement. And then, we have the SEC Crypto 2.0 task force, which is going to be chaired by SEC Chair Hester Peirce, SEC Chair Hester Peirce. Then we've got Senator Cynthia Lummis named the chair of the Senate Banking Subcommittee on Digital Assets. And then finally, a little earlier in the week, the Bank of America CEO said that the financial and TradFi industry would jump into crypto payments if regulators allowed it. Seems like that is now happening. But Greg, I mean, crazy amount of news there, crazy amount of moves from an industry perspective. Yeah, what's your initial digest on this executive order and its general ramifications?
Yeah, well, I think there was a lot of people that probably thought Trump was going to rug some of his promises that he'd made to the crypto industry. I don't think that the early indications is that's anywhere near the case. I think, the initial reactions acknowledging this only happened sort of 2 hours ago, and we're all sort of digesting, and there is a lot there. One thing I'll read from a fantastic follow that many of your listeners and viewers would probably be familiar with, Punk6529 on Twitter. He definitely leans towards more of the NFT niche of crypto, but certainly has a lot of thoughts of crypto in general. And I'll just read a very short tweet of him summarizing what you just sort of put on the table then, Liam. He said, "This is the single most impressive government document /order/guidance about crypto ever written. I have had the pleasure or displeasure of having read basically all of them from every country in the world over the last 10 plus years. Absolutely incredible work," and a link to the whitehouse.gov link with all of those pieces of information. So Punk6529 lives in Europe. So I think he used to live in New York back in the day. He's still anonymous, but he takes a lot of shots at other regulations around the world at their sort of like unfavorable crypto policies. So I think what I just read out there summarizes it pretty well. If we need one word, I think it's bullish. The sort of contention I'd say on crypto Twitter this morning, particularly with some of the Bitcoin maxis and people that were hoping that he would specifically say there's going to be a Bitcoin strategic reserve. I don't think that's off the table, and I'm certainly not going to claim to know anything around Congress or US law, but I'll read you another tweet from Bully-esque, at Bully-esque ESQ. "If you know how the US government works, this is extremely bullish. Let me explain. Trump signed an executive order that directs government to keep the Bitcoin and crypto it's already seized and may seize, but a president can't purchase new Bitcoin. So that's why Loomis made a big deal this morning about her appointment to the banking committee. The plan, it seems, is that Congress, via her committee, will draft a bill to order the US government to buy more Bitcoin. So summary, two things. It stops the government from selling their roughly 200,000 Bitcoin it already has from seizures such as Silk Road. And secondly, it sets the stage for Congress to order the US government to buy more Bitcoin. In brackets, he's written, I think Loomis has mentioned she wants to buy up to 1 million BTC and other governments will follow suit. Hang on. So I think that's sort of like the counter or the contrarian view to what we're seeing on crypto Twitter this morning that says, he didn't mention a Bitcoin strategic reserve. He's just going to potentially stop selling the seized Bitcoin. This tweet in particular would suggest that maybe there's the two options still on the table. So I think like we haven't had enough time to digest, not all the details are out, but the reality is all of these promises were made, they are coming to fruition. So, I think markets are a little bit still uneasy. We've had a big week, as you mentioned, Liam, but we're sort of like in the crypto industry, we're a bit dopamine fueled, and I think like sometimes something doesn't happen immediately, and we think it's all over. But I remain pretty optimistic and bullish that these promises seem to be being kept at this point in time.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we're moving in the right direction. Interestingly, this morning, I was checking the poly market for the strategic Bitcoin reserve in the first 100 days, and this tanked from nearly 50% a couple of days ago down to below 20%, 18% chance at the moment. I don't know whether this is just because there's a deviation in wording from digital asset stockpile to strategic Bitcoin reserve. And I agree, digital asset stockpile totally opens the door for the US to potentially look at a whole bunch of different assets. There's been a lot of attention on XRP, and maybe that's a direction that the US starts to go in those US founded or US run assets, tokens, ecosystems. That maybe is the direction that they might start to go with the digital asset stockpile. So yeah, lots to continue reading, lots of breakdowns that I hope we'll see in the next week will start to clarify some of this. But I do think we're moving in the right direction rather than the direction that the Biden-Harris administration was moving. We've definitely done a full 180 pivot on that, and I'm really, really interested to see how this rolls out for the rest of the week. Something else that popped up this week, and it kind of faded, but I actually want to cover it on the show, was a little bit of controversy or debate around the Ethereum Foundation and its role within the Ethereum ecosystem. There was some new appointments made to the Ethereum Foundation leadership, and that was done or is influenced very heavily by Vitalik. Now, you can go back and kind of read these tweets and try and follow the story. I don't want to go into the details here because it's a whole nother topic we could discuss, but given the distraction that the ecosystem seems to have at the moment and the inability of ETH to move in price, or at very least how it's lagging the market, what's your take on the Ethereum Foundation or the Ethereum ecosystem more broadly? And if you were, actively involved in this ecosystem, which I guess you are as a capital allocator, would you be nervous or concerned about the way that the Ethereum Foundation is currently supporting the ETH ecosystem?
Yeah, so Ethereum, just really as a hangover from last cycle, is probably still percentage-wise the highest of when I add up my NFTs that I still hold, my highest percentage of holdings. I definitely made a move to get a larger slice of the pie with Solana sort of during the bear market, and that's continued with sort of the memecoin lion's share that those guys have in that ecosystem. I don't know too much about the Ethereum Foundation other than the sort of meme of like the Ethereum Foundation seeming to be able to sell the top, each and every time. I did see some of the drama. Like I follow Sasano, one of Australia's, crypto influencers, particularly in the Ethereum ecosystem. His good mate Eric Connor sort of threw the towel in this week. Eric used to have a CryptoPunk as his PFP on Twitter, and he sort of renounced that he's going to be using his .eth and sort of said he's taken a step back. And he's been flying the flag, I suppose, from an Ethereum perspective of we need to get more aggressive and we need to compete with Solana and we need to compete with Sui and these other layer ones that are upcoming, because it's not just a God-given sort of right that Ethereum is going to remain the only sort of programmable blockchain. And I tend to agree with him from that perspective. But we all sort of know, I mean, if you followed Vitalik, he doesn't have like a brash personality. He's probably not that type of person that is going to be wanting to schmoozy up with Trump or that administration. I think he likes to think of an idealistic world where he can just be neutral on everything. And I'm not judging on that perspective. But I think, yeah, the Ethereum Foundation FUD was very real on the timeline this week. But in terms of just sort of like the attention and why maybe Ethereum has been more of a stable coin this cycle. I mean, unfortunately, I think I bought Ethereum this time last year, around about this time last year, and I'm probably down a couple of percent. It really hasn't moved. I mean, we saw a candle that a couple of green candles around the ETF getting approved in May, which shocked a lot of people. But really since then, it's just sort of like been hovering around that low 300s to high 2000s mark, or I should say low 3000s to high 2000s. But I think just like in terms of the activity on Ethereum last cycle, for those that were around, you had all of the NFT action on Ethereum when NFTs had really captured the lion's share of attention. You still had some meme coins on Ethereum, like particularly when the bear market hit. You know, we saw the likes of Australian founded coin Turbo. We saw Pepe. We sort of saw Mog pop up as well. But most of the meme coin action has been on Solana, and even Trump coin, right? We failed to mention that before. Well, we did in terms of the Solana ecosystem. So I think just like a lot of the hype, a lot of the anticipation, a lot of the activity that was on Ethereum last cycle has shifted to Solana. And so maybe the natural result of that is to see, you know, Solana is doing very well, and Ethereum is not tanking, but it just doesn't have enough steam behind it to sort of get a price surge and hold that trigger. So I remember Chris Bernesky, for those that follow Chris, was talking about Ethereum potentially having a quiet cycle about 15 months ago. And I think right now, objectively speaking, price-wise, you would say that he's been bang on. So do I think this is the end of Ethereum? No, I don't. But yeah, I mean, if you're an Ethereum bag holder like I have been this cycle, you are definitely not doing as well if you sort of double down into BTC or Solana or some of these other alts like Sui. But I still think this cycle's got a bit to play out. So we'll see what happens. But we also saw, I'm just trying to bring it up here. What's it called? Ether Realize, is it? I'm pronouncing that right, Liam?
Yeah.
A new entity that describes its Twitter bio as all roads lead through ETH. We are an institutional product, BD, and marketing arm for the Ethereum ecosystem. And maybe that's what's needed, because, you know, I think I went to Breakpoint in Singapore this past year, and I think Solana does a tremendous job of marketing and, you know, really promoting its ecosystem and you know, putting its arm out and you know, extending an olive branch to builders. So I think, you know, anything that Ethereum can do to make the ecosystem more enticing for more activity is a good thing.
Yeah, and I see two potential paths here from my side. Solana has won the game being the premier on-chain casino. I think that's really clear. And if the Trump administration goes ahead and opens the door for a whole bunch of other ETFs to be approved, again, I think that's going to enable a lot of funds flow into tokens other than Ethereum. And again, I think that could take mindshare, take attention, take TVL away from that ecosystem. So that's the risk. The flip side of that, though, is that I still think a lot of the ETH affiliated businesses like the MetaMask developer it's not Consensus. Who am I thinking of? Is it Consensus? Yep. And, you know, a lot of those ETH affiliated businesses like Coinbase too have had a very distracted few years. And when they have a clear path ahead of them with the right regulations and without the threat of litigation, then it might open the door for ETH to move in a genuine fashion into mainstream finance and into TradFi. And I think ETH is still ahead in that race. And I think Solana's positioning as the premium on-chain casino could hurt it there. So I think the degens will keep loving Solana, but I'm hoping that ETH is able to break through and start to live up to some of those DeFi promises and make that tech as accessible and as make that dream as realizable as possible.
We should just make a very quick mention too, Liam, that Solana performed exceptionally well with all that activity on Trump, but it did break when Melania hit, and there were people that could not sell. They couldn't get their transactions through. They couldn't buy. They couldn't sell. Solana was a bit of a meme for many years, where it would go off. Ethereum definitely holds the mantle there in terms of still being able to process transactions. So, I think from an Ethereum perspective, that still is a point. Everyone doesn't care about decentralization until decentralization or until the chain doesn't actually work, right? So I think that's still an advantage that Ethereum has there. And when I speak to a lot of whales in the NFT, art market and even high-end PFPs, they still feel way more comfortable, even though many of them have gone very well into the Solana, casino or meme coins, as you mentioned before. But they do not want their high-valued NFTs on a chain like Solana when it still goes down, and they just don't feel like it has true decentralization yet. So, it's interesting speaking to those whales and collectors from that perspective.
Yeah, I guess I'd rather pay a $50 gas fee than not be able to sell at all.
Yeah.
There were a couple of updates on the NFT side this week. Do you want to give us a quick update on the NFT ecosystem and what's going on there?
Yeah, so I think, look, NFTs sort of popped their head back up late last year, and a few people sort of said, I know you had Greeny on recently, Liam, and I was tic-tacking with him, and I think Greeny's an exceptional trader, and sort of he started loading up some NFT bags, and they've retraced a bit, but I still think NFTs often have their moment in the sun towards the end of the cycle. If you remember last year, it's quite funny seeing people going, is this the top of the cycle right now? We're in the equivalent of January 2021. The Beeple $69 million sale hasn't even happened yet. I don't think we're going to see the NFT mania like we saw in 21 and early 22. But I do think that there's probably a little bit of juice to squeeze in the NFT ecosystem. Probably the more significant things that have happened in the last couple of days is we've actually seen 4 autoglyph sales, all for over 100 ETH a piece. The first two about 4 days ago were at 130 and 120 ETH respectively, which was over 400,000 USD a piece for one of these 512 autoglyphs by Lava Labs. And if you're not familiar with autoglyphs, they were basically a grail in NFT collecting circles. They were the first fully on-chain art by Lava Labs, the creators of CryptoPunks. But in the last 24 hours, we've also seen 2 more autoglyphs go for 100 ETH each, or over sort of 330,000 a pop. The Azuki ecosystem, I just recently did an article on Zagabond. Their founder, Azuki, has had some FUD like many NFT projects over the journey, but they've just released their anime coin, which I think you guys at Binance listed a few hours ago, Liam. It's been interesting. I think we were speaking to Orlando off air that we've seen Azuki's retrace already by over 50%, the OG collection, and some of the subsequent collections 60 to 70% down, which sort of happened with Pudgy Penguins once Pengu dropped as well. People are obviously trying to dump because the anticipation of getting something free, like the allocation of Pengu with Pudgies and anime with Azuki. I'd expect, not financial advice, of course, but I'd expect that Azuki makes a bit of a bounce back there. Could be potentially a buying opportunity there. But I think, they're probably the two of the headlines in NFTs in the last couple of days from an art perspective and a PFP perspective.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see whether we do see that NFT craze come back, or whether, like I said, the shorter path to launch for meme coins is going to be the meta that dominates the back half of this cycle, or whether it's AI meme coins. I don't know. I think they're still mostly just meme coins, but let's see. Plenty of exciting stuff coming up. Thanks so much for joining us, Greg. Great to have you on the show. And yeah, good luck trading the back half of this bull market.
Absolutely. Thank you.
One more quick mention from me this week, guys. We do have a meetup in Brisbane on the 4th of February. Please come and join us, meet your local crypto community. I'm going to be there. I'll be speaking on our panel and grilling these local industry experts about what's going to go on in 2025. So come, hang, have a drink, have a snack, and catch up. Please follow, like, and subscribe. Please let us know who else you'd like to have on the show, what else you would love us to cover. But yeah, Binance, keep enjoying this green market, keep enjoying these all-time highs, and I will see you next week. Have a good one. Hey, Binance, thanks for watching. Please note that this discussion includes insights from non-affiliated third parties and key opinion leaders. Binance provides this platform for informational and for educational purposes only and is not responsible for any content or insights provided. This information should not be considered as financial, tax, or investment advice from Binance.